And the night I almost disappeared, it wasn't dramatic. There was no storm, no screaming, no big goodbye text, just me, a parked car, and a silence so loud it felt like it was crushing my ribs. I had lost my job 3 weeks earlier. I worked in construction for 8 years. Not glamorous, but honest work. The kind of work where your hands ache, but your pride feels full. When the company downsized, my name was on the list. Nothing personal, they said, but it felt personal. Everything after that unraveled fast. Bills stacked up, calls from unknown numbers. I stopped answering friends. I stopped going to church. I stopped looking in mirrors. I told everyone I was figuring things out. Truth? I was drowning quietly. The worst part wasn't being broke. It was shame. Shame is heavy. It sits on your chest. It whispers, "You're not enough. You failed. You're a burden." I started believing it. My girlfriend, Hannah, tried to help at first. She said we'd get through it. But I could see the worry in her eyes, the disappointment she tried to hide. One night she said softly, "Caleb, I just don't know how long we can live like this." She wasn't cruel. She was tired. And I couldn't blame her. A week later, she packed a suitcase and said she needed space. Space. That word echoed in my head like a closing door. That's how I ended up in that parking lot. It was behind a grocery store that had already closed. One flickering light above the entrance. Empty carts rolling slightly when the wind pushed them. I had nowhere to go. My apartment lease was ending. My savings were gone. I sat in the driver's seat, staring at the steering wheel like it had answers. I remember thinking, maybe if I just leave, drive somewhere far, start over, or just disappear. I wasn't thinking clearly. I wasn't thinking about tomorrow. I just wanted the pain to stop. And when you're that low, disappearing feels easier than fighting. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes, and that's when I heard it. Knock, knock, soft, firm. On my window. My heart jumped into my throat. I turned my head slowly. An older man stood outside. Late 60s maybe. Grey beard, worn jacket, kind eyes. I rolled the window down halfway. "Evening," he said gently. I didn't answer. "You all right in there?" I forced a shrug. "Yeah, just resting." He studied me. Not in a suspicious way. In a way that felt like he was really looking. "I've seen that look before," he said. "What look?" "The one that says you're carrying more than you can hold." I almost rolled the window back up. Instead, I said something I hadn't admitted out loud. "I'm just tired." He nodded like he understood that word deeply. "Mind if I sit on the curb for a minute?" he asked. It was such a strange request that I didn't know how to respond. But I didn't say no. He walked over and sat on the curb near my car door. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. Just the hum of distant traffic. Then he said, "Name's Arthur." I swallowed. "Caleb." "Caleb," he repeated. Good, strong name. I almost laughed. I didn't feel strong. Arthur didn't interrogate me. He didn't preach. He just asked, "What happened?" And something in me cracked. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was the way he didn't rush me. Maybe it was because he was a stranger, and I didn't have to protect my pride. But I told him. I told him about losing my job, about Hannah leaving, about feeling like a failure, about sitting in that car wondering if disappearing would hurt less than staying. When I finished, I felt exposed, weak, pathetic. Arthur was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that changed me. "You know what rock bottom really is?" I shook my head. "It's not the place where you're worthless. It's the place where the lies get loud." I frowned. "The lies?" I asked. He nodded. "The lie that your job was your identity. The lie that someone leaving means you're unlovable. The lie that struggling means you're finished." His voice wasn't loud, but every word landed. "I lost everything once," he continued. "Business collapsed. Wife left. I slept in my truck for 4 months." I stared at him. He didn't look broken. He looked steady. "What changed?" I asked quietly. He smiled. "Someone knocked on my window." I felt something shift in my chest. Arthur stood up slowly. and walked closer to my car. Caleb, pain convinces you that this moment is permanent. It isn't. You're not done. You're just in the middle. The middle. I'd been acting like it was the end. You don't need to disappear, he said softly. You need to breathe. Then take one small step tomorrow. One step toward what? I whispered. Anything that moves you forward. One job application, one phone call, one conversation. Don't fix your life tonight. Just survive it. I felt tears burning my eyes, and I hated that he could see them. I don't feel strong, I admitted. You don't have to feel strong, Arthur said. You just have to stay. Stay. That word felt heavier than disappear, but also braver. Before he left, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small folded card. It wasn't money, it was a business card. On it was a small auto repair shop address and his name. If you need work, he said, come see me. It won't be glamorous, but it's honest. I stared at the card like it was gold. Why would you help me? I asked. He shrugged. Because someone helped me. He knocked lightly on the roof of my car and said, go home, Caleb. Tomorrow isn't finished with you. Then he walked away, just like that. I didn't disappear that night. I drove back to my apartment. I cried in the shower, and for the first time in weeks, I prayed. Not a fancy prayer, just, God, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm still here. The next morning, I almost talked myself out of it, but I drove to Arthur's repair shop. It was small, grease-stained floors, old radio playing softly, the smell of oil and metal. He looked up, saw me, and smiled like he expected me. Morning, Caleb. And that's how I started sweeping floors. Not managing projects, not leading crews, sweeping. And you know what? It felt honest. Weeks passed. I worked hard. I showed up early. I stayed late. Arthur taught me more than car repairs. He taught me steadiness, patience, how to separate who I am from what I do. You're more than your worst season, he'd say. Slowly, the shame loosened its grip. I started applying for jobs again, but this time, not from desperation, from determination. 3 months later, I landed a supervisor position at a new construction firm. Better pay, better environment. When I told Arthur, he clapped me on the back. Knew you weren't finished, he said. Hannah reached out eventually. We met for coffee. She said she saw something different in me. Calmer, stronger. But here's the thing. I didn't need her to come back to feel whole. That was new. We decided to move forward slowly, healthier. But even if she hadn't, I would have been okay. Because that night in the parking lot taught me something powerful. Rock bottom isn't where you end, it's where you decide. Sometimes I drive past that grocery store. I park in the same spot, not because I'm hurting, but because I remember. I remember how close I came to giving up on myself. And I think about how one knock changed everything. Not because it fixed my life, but because it interrupted the lie. If you're sitting in your own parked car right now, physically or emotionally, hear me. You are not a burden. You are not finished. You are not your unemployment, your breakup, your debt, or your shame. You are in the middle. And the middle is survivable. Stay. Just stay. Breathe tonight. Take one small step tomorrow. Because maybe, just maybe, someone is about to knock on your window too. And your story isn't over. It's just getting stronger.